Hello, this is Rashida Dukes, and today we're doing another video. Today is about brioche, but about one particular one which is I love so much, called Brioche Mousseline, because it does have butter and egg and no milk and no water. We know there's so many versions of brioche, but this is personally really my favorite one. It's the nicest one, I think. It's fluffy, it's very light, and it has a very deep, good flavor to it. And the traditional shape of this brioche is a cylinder, tall, which is, I think it's elegant. It's around 2 inch, between 2 to 3 inches. Because of the sake of this video, I even use the same brioche dough for what we call the rectangle, perfect rectangle, perfect for sandwich, and the traditional shape. The reason I like brioche, because Marie Antoinette said, let them eat brioche, qu'ils mangent de la brioche. No, I don't think so. It's because of the flavor, because it's fluffy, because you use it in so many different projects, like a canapé, meaning you slice it, you toast it, and you put anything, caviar, smoked salmon, anything you want. And also I like to eat it in breakfast. I like the shape because it's tall, elegant, individual. And the thing is, you can make this brioche and bake them and freeze them. They really last for a long time, couple months easily. Brioche is considered a little bit difficult to make, and I see why. And I think I'm going to try to explain to you all the steps so it becomes simpler to you. The first thing you need to understand, kneading is extremely important. Adding the butter in small portion and waiting for the kneading to be completed is extremely important, because the development of gluten rely on it. So you may need this brioche for a good 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even 1 hour. I'm using the KitchenAid mixer, and sometimes they get overheated. Even the professional version, what I do, I knead, and if I see the butter is too soft, the machine is getting too hot, I stop, I take the bowl and put it in the refrigerator for just 5-10 minutes and come back and continue the kneading. And you can do this recipe while you're working on other projects, because you really don't do anything. The machine is doing the kneading, so it's a long time. It may take the whole thing may take 1 hour, but you really not doing anything. So my suggestion is doing this recipe while you're working on another project. As usual, you buy all the necessary ingredients, you weigh them, you put them in different containers, hopefully with a lid, until you're ready. In a big mixing bowl, pour the flours, salt, yeast, sugar, and mix everything with a big whisk. Then add the egg yolks, start mixing, add the whole eggs one at a time. Please wait until everything is combined before adding the next egg. Continue kneading. It's very important that this process is completed before adding the butter. Try to use a spatula to help the mixer. The butter should be at room temperature, meaning it should be quite soft. So we're starting adding a very small portion of the butter. Wait until the butter is completely combined with the dough before adding the next one. This process may take between 15 minutes up to 45 minutes, even 1 hour, so you have to be patient. If your mixer gets overheated, I will stop the whole process, take the ball, put it in the refrigerator for 5 to 15 minutes, and then later continue kneading. After a few minutes, you're going to see that the dough is glossy, it looks silky, and it looks sticky, but if you touch it, it does not stick to your hand. The development of the gluten is affected by the added fat while the dough is being made. This rich dough will stretch smoothly when the gluten is completely developed. We're trying to get a clear membrane. If we don't get it by the end of the kneading, don't worry about it. By the end of the process of kneading, we're going to store this dough in the refrigerator overnight. 3-4 hours will be enough, but I prefer an overnight. Even if the gluten is not developed completely, I will still store it in the refrigerator because we don't want to get rid of this dough. It's very expensive, it has a lot of butter, and we can save it the next day, hopefully. The next day, get the dough out of the refrigerator, and you may continue kneading it, believe it or not, if you feel like the gluten was not well developed. You can see that the dough does not stick to your hand, so that's a good sign. And we're going to try to do some kind of what we call the window pane test. That means we can stretch the dough without breaking it, and that means also the gluten is well developed. That means the dough is ready to be molded and ready to rise. For brioche mousseline, normally we use what we call a cylindric shape. Normally it's between 2.5 to 3.5 inch high, and the diameter is around 2.5 and 3. And to achieve a beautiful shape, normally I weigh the dough. So for this mold, the dough is going to be between 80 gram and 90 gram, or you just shape the dough so it fits the third of the mold. And by the way, you can use any mold you have, especially here in the States. You can even use the muffin molds or the bread mold or cupcake mold, whatever you have. I'm using non-stick mold, so I don't have to butter them. And then when you're done, you cover them with a kitchen towel. I'm using a giant plastic bag. They're going to be proofing between 2 hours to 4 hours. They will be doubled, even tripled. Then you're going to brush them with an egg wash. But please be careful, do not touch the side of the mold because the dough may stick to the mold during the process of baking. Then if you have some fancy sugar like crystal brown sugar, crystal white sugar, and pearl sugar, you can sprinkle on the top of the brioche, or you don't have to do anything. And keep eye on them on the oven. It may take between 25 minutes up to 45. So it depends on the shape and the size of the brioche. Plus, you know your oven better than anybody. By now your oven should be preheated at 340 Fahrenheit or 170 Celsius. I'm going to continue using all the mold I have. Right now I have a perfect cube, 4" by 4. They're so perfect for a perfect slice of brioche. And again, you just put enough dough, just a third of the volume of the mold, and let it rise. And you're going to see it did double, and it's ready to be baked. Since I'm going to keep the lid on this mold, I don't have to brush it with egg wash. I'm using here an aluminium mold, so I do have to brush it with the butter because they will stick. And I'm just creating something what we call here in the state like dinner rolls, the fancy dinner rolls. And here I'm using a traditional bread mold. I like the small one. This one it's like 5 to 6 inch long. Here I'm using the brioche à tête mold. When you get them out of the oven, remove them from the mold as soon as possible. Be careful, they're hot. Use some oven gloves, because if you leave them in the mold, they will steam and they will be soggy. Leave them on a cooling rack for a few minutes and they're ready to be eaten. Or put them in a plastic bag and freeze them for 2, even 3 months with no problem. Please keep in mind that the details, the measurement, the ingredients are located in the link of the recipe I'm providing in the description of this video. So if I miss anything, just leave your comments in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer your question, and I will update the recipe based on your comments. It's so good. You have to try it. You really have to. Please leave your question, comment. Make sure you like it. Make sure you share it with your friends and family. Hope to see you soon. Bye bye.